Health issues are the things which break our daily routine many more times than we want. Whatever the issue is, which we are confronted, the gravity of it forces us to think on visiting the medical doctor, to take away our pain, our limitation to move or to work. And when these issues accumulate one upon another, we just need to do something. But, have we thought for a moment from where all these issues are coming? Why me, and why now? Maybe it's time to come with me and discover possible reasons for every kind of health issue. Allow me to suggest you a question: why don't I heal myself? Looking the differences between the traditional medicine and the new medicine, we see that the traditional medicine is leaning on Newtonian mechanistic concept where everything is measured and evaluated by physical facts. And on the other side, the quantic approach gives us a broader insight into the way how our mind works, the importance of everyday conflicts, which leads us to the symbology of our body and the new way how to treat almost all health issues. Their Newtonian concept is based on his discovery of the natural laws of mechanics, where his Apple event established the bases of the so-called scientific method, where some scientific hypothesis can be verified, measured, weighed, etc. to be able to claim its veracity. With time, this kind of verification was converted in dogma, which cannot be touched. In 1923, the young German-born theoretical physicist Albert Einstein developed the general theory of relativity, which forever changed the unmovable posture of the science. The most important formula in known human history explained the relation between the mass and energy, claiming that their mathematical interdependency makes them the same thing, so everything around us, including ourselves, is just a different form of energy. A new branch of the physics was born, and an avalanche of the scientists started to develop new theories about our world and the universe. Their efforts proved without any doubt that everything in the nature is energy of the different frequency, and even more. The smallest particles of our universe are not other thing than a pure conscience. The new science affected almost every field of research. The medicine was not an exemption. The new medicine established a new point of view to a human being, starting to see it as a unique universal entity, constantly connected with surrounding universe, and its indivisible part in a constant interaction with all parts of reality. It is a very little known fact, but we, human beings, are governed by the organ we less use, the brain. We all know that the left brain hemisphere is the rational part of it, and the right hemisphere is the intuitive or creative part. Less known is the fact that we can distinguish three main brain areas, dedicated to different mental functions: the conscious area marked with orange, the subconscious area marked with blue, and unconscious area marked with brown. The closest to us is the conscious area because most part of the awake state is the simile for our I, ourselves. The subconscious area is a home of our feelings, our emotions and dreams. There is no direct access to subconscious and information stored there. It manifests itself through our emotions and feelings, our creativity, and is known by its feminine polarization. Around 80% of all information we register in our everyday interaction with the world goes directly to subconscious mind and is almost never reached consciously. All traumas, all fears, doubts, and a variety of other feelings and conflict situations find their home in some folder in subconscious brain. The third part of the mind field is our unconscious brain, cerebellum, where we have energetic hard drive which record everything what happens during our life. There are also other important areas of our brain, but for now, we will mention just two, energetically speaking, important parts, which are pituitary and pineal glands. There are strong indications that these two glands apart from their known physical functions, are also the receiver and transmitter of the mental energy, which will in a future allows humans to communicate telepathically, and today are responsible for so-called paranormal abilities. Let's leave for now the anatomy and see if we can figure out from where our diseases are coming. It's certain that before we are born, we make some kind of plan how our future life path should be. Imagine our life as a road full of curves or contrasts, which are our opportunities to learn and overcome our limits. The logical conclusion would be to follow this road, as this blue line does, but the reality shows that our steps, more than once, slips from the marked path, and are full of extreme turns, with our intent to follow the original path. This sharp turns are points where our subconscious mind try to tell us that we are doing something which is not good for us and for our development as a spiritual being. And the subconscious mind is sending us symbols in a form of some body dysfunction, some disease, some physical limitation, even accident. Our task should be to identify these symbols, understand them, and dissolve the erroneous behavior of our system. To try to understand what is what we call conflict, imagine a simple, almost funny life situation. The apparently normal husband is thinking about some forbidden fruit he was tasting. His wife heard about it from the good neighbors and the consequences, an emotional conflict. What happens in our inside, in this kind of situations, is that the subconscious mind react on emotional shock received from the conscious part, and try with the symbols, affecting certain body parts, or body functions, to tell that the reaction we have is not good for us. If we don't listen or understand, and normally we don't, the gravity of the symptoms is growing, producing all kind of effects on our health. Identifying the conflict, and changing point of view regarding the conflict situation can almost instantly resolve the health issue. But when the conflict persists unsolved, the situation can become chronic and become the permanent program, which has normally be rebalanced with other healing methods. The professionals identified the conflict markers and put together the body map for better understanding where, in our life and our environment, we have to search for the origin of particular unbalance or disease. The right part of the body is related with emotional conflicts connected with a masculine, proper masculinity, father, brother, male family members, sons, friends, workmates. The left side of the body is related with emotional conflicts connected with a feminine, proper femininity, mother, sister, female family members, daughters, female friends, workmates. The lower part of the body, below the belt, is related with a people and situation from before we become independent, and the upper part with the people and situations before our independization. These rules are valid when we are talking about organs, which appear in a body in pairs, as kidneys, lungs and other double organs. For the single organs, as heart, pancreas, or stomach, we use the particular symbology for each of them. In this presentation we will center on a basic, commonly affected group of organs you can see on the screen. Let's begin with the head. The diseases or conditions that person may suffer in this part of the anatomy are often related to saturations, blockages or energy centers associated with the pineal and pituitary glands and the medulla oblongata. They tend to be related to contradictions between our beliefs and our evidence. The philosophical and religious issues often generate internal conflicts that sometimes are not easily solved. The irritation that occurs in one or both hemispheres of the brain, or the pineal and pituitary gland, usually has an emotional component that is denominated in psychological terms as a feelings of misunderstanding. The ears may be affected by issues that have to do with the desire not to hear, not to listen. For example, many people who manifest deafness in more or less advanced degree normally report that they were afraid of their parents when they discussed, or when a father or a mother shouted or scolded them frequently. Handedness is another important factor, because if the affected is the right ear, the screams came mainly from the father, and if the affected is the left ear, from the mother. For eyes, the process is similar to ears, so, not to see what happens around us, can interpret our unconscious as an order to reduce, or even nullify the vision. Myopia can be caused by not having a clear vision of the future, as people who suffer from poor near vision will not see what is happening before their eyes. The astigmatism is characteristic for the people with a distorted view of the reality. Medical conditions that occur in this part of our body can be divided into three parts: cervical, thoracic, and lumbar. Cervical problems are related to the rigidity of mental approaches. It is as if we were already tired of looking at all sides before making decisions, or we don't like to consult anyone before taking decisions. In these circumstances, our vertebrae stiffen to keep your head as still as possible on the front. It is a symptom of stubbornness or lack of humility. It is also a sign of inflexibility in our process of making decisions. Discomfort in the ridges are related when burdens and responsibilities take over our ability to cope with them, is to say, a bag too heavy for our backs. It finally claims its attention in a form of a pain, herniated discs, scoliosis, etc. Finally, lumbar pains are related to a cultural aspect, as is to bow to the other. When bow before others becomes unbearable meaning of humiliation, we can generate lumbar pains that prevent us from realizing this unacceptable practice. It can also mean an excess of pride when we have always rejected any opinion or thought that it had not came from our brain. Learning the lessons of love, reason why we came here, is undoubtedly the great clarifier of the conditions that we suffer in the heart. However, it is worth adding that some of the heart problems come from what is called in bioenergetics lost territory. When a person believes or perceives that everything, which is part of the territory it controls, is attacked or lost, alteration in the coronary arteries occurs in a form of small ulcers forming inside them. The generation of these ulcers weaken the arterial wall, which makes that, under the pressure of blood flowing through them, arterial spasm occurs. As a result, gives angina pectoris. If the conflict is resolved, later body lining inwardly arteries with cholesterol to produce arterial tissue regeneration cells, closing ulcers. In this process of cell regeneration, some atheromatous plaque can be detached and clog the entry of blood into the artery, resulting in a myocardial infarction. In any case, the heart is always affected when there is a serious blockage in the manifestation of our emotions or feelings, when we suffer a disappointment, a breakup, the loss or traumatic separation of a child, etc. When we suffer strong emotional impact, the kidneys suffers a kind of spasm, which causes them to narrow the filters through which fluids run, blood, water, etc., so that microscopic impurities, before passed without difficulty, now staying retained. When the tension decreases, the filters open again to its previous position, leading to these impurities out toward the bladder and its path through the ureters, scratching the walls and causing these small, painful lesions, which are sometimes identified as originating from the ovaries, given the area where the ureters goes. The adrenals can also be affected if we suffer along our life a fright strong enough. Another causes of kidney damage is derived from psychological trauma experienced in relation to liquids. For example, if we are about to drown, if we lose everything because of a flood, if we provoke damage by the misuse of any liquid, etc. In all cases, the severity of the damage we suffer is directly related to the force with which we have been affected with mental or emotional trauma. The causes of the declines in immune response are related to psychological trauma, where the feelings are involved, emotional breakdowns, separation, death of loved ones, etc. Also, feelings of guilt about the events we live can lead to lower defenses or incorrect programming of the antibodies, which then not recognize our own cells, resulting a call of an autoimmune diseases. Although it may be several reasons why breasts may become affected, one of the most important is related to the loss conflict. The right breast will be affected if the loss relates to the couple, death, divorce, separation, and the left breast is, whether the loss of a child. Also, in this section it should be reflected that there are other causes, such as nest conflict. For example, if person cannot pay a mortgage and lose the house, and all belongings end up in the street. This disease is usually caused by a significant reduction in self-esteem, personal assessment. The loss of bone substance represents the dismantling of the most solid structure of our body, bones, that is, symbolically, where we have a support, self-esteem. Many women suffer it from the moment when they cease to be fertile, probably by a negative psychological development that makes them perceived as being no longer useful, they cannot generate life, etc. Furthermore, children are usually older and do not live with her, and thus sharpens the sense of futility, which causes the lowering of self-esteem and consequently destabilizes calcium biochemistry. Appropriate therapy to rebuild properly the value scale and perspective will cause a future increase in bone density, a recalcification. The liver is the major recipient of our anger and resentment. An attitude of revenge, resentment remained, anger, rage, can ultimately cause more or less serious liver problems, depending on the intensity of our emotions. The gallbladder is the recipient of our fears. The alterations in the vesicle, plus gallbladder stones, that may form as a result of the accumulation of no exteriorization of fears, generates a decrease in production of bile liquid, which hinders the digestive processes, leading to more or less chronic constipation. The pancreas can be affected by emotional conflicts related to the loss of the things that make life pleasant and sweet, also family conflicts, because of an inheritance or disappointments produced when the person was mentally already enjoying something, for example, a pleasure trip which the last minute has to be cancelled, to be able to pay for illness of a family member. The energy center, located at the height of the solar plexus, is related to our digestive system, stomach, esophagus, pancreas, spleen, liver, gallbladder and small intestine. Failing to swallow or digest certain situations are the main causes of digestive problems. Also, stress can cause alterations, as do duodenal ulcers, gastritis, etc. When the food gets in, already digested, then may cause alterations to the gut, such as diarrhea, intestinal obstructions, irritable bowel syndrome, etc. The joints connect two parts to allow a synchronized movement to occur between them. So, articulated knees aspects are parents, hips, between the family of origin, and we created ourselves, elbows, among the children, and so on. Because of its importance, we'll mention another important aspect regarding the knees. Our unconscious has recorded that when we humiliate or unjustly punish, we were always put on our knees. Even when we were in church, we were set on our knees as a sign of submission to authority. This unconscious register act when we feel humiliated, when we were treated unfairly, when we see an injustice, and when we entered in contradiction between our desire to move forward and fear it. In short, to the more or less serious unbalances that we suffer, it is convenient to ask ourselves what conflict we have experienced emotionally, which could have affected the physical body. Nature gives us simple keys that we should observe. Arthritis and arthrosis are symbols for swinging between two situations and not be able to make decision. Mother swinging between home and work, children and husband, this or that workplace, etc. Here are just a few examples given, enough to get an idea of how our unconscious promptly warns us that we are experiencing something that does not suit us. Let's listen to it. The skin is our boundary between our inner and outer world, beyond our bodily space. It's the biggest organ of a human being. It is what is seen of us from outside. It is closely related with the image we have about ourselves, what we think, how others see us, how we would like to be, but we are not, etc. Shortly explained, everything about our image affects the skin. Let's look at some options we have to improve our daily balance in our health condition. Almost never, when some condition occurs, we connect the health state with the recent events, which could cause the internal conflict. It's time to start to observe and connect our body state with what happened from this moment to at most 72 hours back, trying to establish a few points in our events, which could be cause of the actual disease. Analyzing the events and connecting them with our body symbology can give us a good clues what event and what emotional impact caused the actual state. The conflict can be resolved very fast if we talk profoundly and positively about it, and if it is with a person with which we had that conflict, the resolution will be even faster. If not, it's very important to share with someone our emotional state to lower the tension level of our interior and to gain other points of view. It's also recommended to visit some professional working with energy treatment like homeopathy, acupuncture, etc. One of the best tools to lower the conflict balance ratio is a daily relaxation. There are several techniques to relaxing body and mind, and just choose whatever suits you best. After relaxing the body, you can center on reviewing the daily events with the intention to see them from outside, if it is not you who participate in them. First goal is to gain another point of view of the situations and to re-establish the connection between conscious and subconscious mind, enabling the flow of information between the brain hemispheres. This is helping us to stand back to the main path of our life. It raises the overall vibrations and put us closer to our spiritual self. A 20 minutes of daily relaxation can make miracles. Maybe it sounds too repetitive, but sharing our impressions, feelings and emotional alterations is one of the best ways to eliminate any possible physical alteration. Beside the all health issues mentioned in this presentation, there are also numerous so-called diseases, from the simplest to most complicated, all of them, without exemption, subject to psychical alterations as a consequence of an emotional conflict. Whatever the problem is, you can always contact me and get the possible interpretation of the real cause. You also get the protocol to follow to resolve the problem and eliminate the physical consequences. In a case where intervention of other professionals is needed, we'll advise you what branch of professional to seek in your local area.